A Garfield Christmas special was first broadcasted on December 21st, 1987 on CBS and ran on there for about 14 years as a side special to Charlie Brown Christmas, along with many of the other specials CBS was putting out at the time. And actually it was on longer than Garfield and Friends was on the air, long after that show had ended in 1995. So it was on there for a couple of years after that. But this is a very simple story with a Garfield Christmas special. Garfield, John, and Odie decide to leave their home and go to John's grandmother's farm for Christmas, and the whole Arbuckle family is there. We see John's parents, his brother Doc Boy, and of course his grandmother, played by Pat Carroll, and the brothers played by David L. Lander, Squiggy from Laverne and Shirley, and of course chaos and hijinks ensue, and also they will discover the true meaning of Christmas, along with a couple of other things as well. And this was Jim Davis, the creator of Garfield, cited this as a semi-autobiographical special. And this is one of those specials where you watch it originally and you don't realize that there's a lot of different versions of this out there. Specifically ones that add stuff and take stuff out of there. Like the original 1987 version is one that's wasn't usually seen very often. When you saw this on television in the late 90s, and especially when it came out on DVD, it was usually the re-edited version, which basically consisted of notable changes such as specific scenes getting added, like their whole scene where they're at the piano and Grandma does the "Oh Christmas Tree" song in a different is like in a upbeat rock and roll not even rock and roll, but like a more upbeat version of it. That's not in the original special. And like they changed like the whole, it's like the scene where Grandma's talking about her husband, like that scene is shot in sepia tone and it's all blue and all that. But like in the original special, there's a lot of stuff that's completely taken out of that particular segment. But then there's different animation styles too, like the scene I'm talking about where Grandma's talking to Garfield about her late husband. That scene is just shot in a normal fashion, and of course in the re-edited version, it's all sepia tone blue and that type of stuff. And it does usually lead to a lot of interesting conversations about which version is the better version, because you would think that the sepia tone version would be more inclined with that, and you know the whole idea of, and it does kind of work, but at the same time it's also kind of something where it's just like, you know, it'd be kind of interesting if we didn't see the grandfather in the newer version, because in the original version you don't see him, but in the newer version you see like a framed picture of him. And I don't know, it does lead to kind of a mystery aspect to that. But other than that, though, they're both pretty good versions overall. And this is a really good special. It isn't just about Garfield and Odie doing shenanigans during the holiday season. There is kind of an emotional lift to it, specifically with the stuff with Grandma. Of course, Pat Carroll is known to most people as the voice of Ursula from The Little Mermaid. And, you know, she's done a lot of other works as well. Mary Tyler Moore, Laverne and Shirley, Pound Puppies. She was on a lot of those shows. And, you know, this is one of those great performances by her that really doesn't get talked about very often. She really does give it her all in here. And the whole idea of adding this little storyline here about, you know, Garfield coming across these cards that her husband had and using that as a Christmas present, just like there's a nice little emotional subplot to it that you don't really expect to have happen in here overall, but it does play very well to the context of the special overall. Like, it's also pretty interesting when you read the comics of this. There's actually a lot more stuff in the, like, there's a specific book that came out based off of this special that adds like layers to it, like a little bit of more of a side story, like the whole thing about Odie trying to figure out what to give Garfield. And so we see at the end of the special he gets this back scratcher. But if you read the comics, like, there's a whole segment where Odie has no idea what he's doing, and basically he just wanders off upset, and then Garfield basically helps him put together this thing, and you know Odie thinks that, oh, he did it himself in some way, shape, or form. It's just like, okay, well, I'm going off on my merry way now. But then again, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense at the end when Garfield's just like, okay, what is this? It's just like, you're the one that made this, dude. You should probably know what that is. But again, little touches like that are very interesting. It makes for these different versions. It makes unique, interesting viewing experiences for these different versions out there. But I mean, this is one of my favorite specials. There's two things that keep me back. One is Garfield, and the other is the family. The family overall is great to watch. There are a lot of fun characters in here, great voice actors, you know, Julie Payne, Pat Harrington Jr., Lander, Carol. Of course, you got the original Garfield crew, Tom Hugh, Greg Berger, and Lorenzo Music, of course. And it's just a really, really good special. It's the one that you don't really need a unique story to make it great, but you do get a sweet, funny, all-around fun special overall, and it is something that is really, really worth checking out in general. Both versions of the special are out there. There's two different versions of it, and if you can find both versions of them, definitely give them a shot, or just go on YouTube and watch them. You can. They usually air the special a lot on YouTube, and it gets a lot of views on there. In fact, the Garfield Holiday Special DVD, which has this and the Halloween and Thanksgiving specials, ended up being really hard to get at times. Like every time you go online, it's like worth hundreds of dollars. Not even hundreds of dollars, but more than you would think it would. But makes them like they make for a nice little rare collector's items overall. But this is probably just rambling on right now. But overall, yeah, this is just what you expect from a Garfield's Christmas special, and it works. It's a ton of fun. It's a nice little emotional outing too. It just works. It's a bona fide classic. What more can you say? A Garfield Christmas special.